There are some people who live in a dream world, and there are some who face reality. And then there are those who turn one into the other. If you could plug and play in a virtual utopia, would you do it? Are Cyberpunk Braindances the ultimate technological product to gameplay and online content consumption? What happens to your body when most your life is in a virtual world?
I played a lot of Cyberpunk 2077, and I always wondered, when exploring Night City, how did people let things get this bad? Trash on the streets, violence and crime everywhere, and don't get me started on the moral bankrupt corruption that no one bothered even trying to fix. All the issues in the Cyberpunk universe cannot be fixed overnight, but they can at least attempt some type of change. Braindances is what's slowing down any social development or community progress. For example, if you put drugs, casinos, and any other addictive vices that supplement people's hedonistic weaknesses in a community, within a few years, that community will decline till it's an empty husk of its former self. Then I came up with a theory about Cyberpunk 2077's Braindances and the terrifying effects and how it may have contributed to the collapsing society. In this video, I will address the systemic failures in virtual escapism like Braindances and other forms of VR. Our modern world is practically drowning in unsolved problems. We have nations facing catastrophic low birth rates, global economies owing more money than they could ever reasonably pay back, and a younger generation staring down a structural housing crisis with zero systemic solutions in sight. So how to maintain power and control when society is actually in decline? Simple. Don't fix anything. They just keep people entirely complacent with endless brain-numbing digital slop. Braindead's tech of Cyberpunk exposes the ultimate psyop and how our current media landscape is already priming us to accept the exact same faith. Throughout history, whenever a ruling elite faces social, economic, or political collapse, they always default to the exact same behavioral script. Use mass entertainment, state-sponsored rituals, and public spectacles to distract the population from rioting or demanding change. The Roman Empire perfected this with bread and circuses. When the empire was plagued with hyperinflation and massive unemployment, the state provided free wheat grain, lavish shows, and violent gladiator games to keep the poor, unemployed masses too full and too entertained to riot. The Babylonian Empire used the Akitu festival. It was a massive 12-day New Year religious festival explicitly designed to affirm the king's divine right to rule, blinding the population to a completely failing economy. In 2077, Night City is no different. The technology and its state-of-the-art, but logically, Night City is a post-collapse society, just like the historical societies mentioned. The Braindance, or BDs, transmit a digital recording of an experience directly to the neural system of a viewer, making them sense, smell, and emotionally feel everything the recorder felt. It is the ultimate evolution of entertainment. If the Braindance were real, it would be a high-selling item, like a new game system. However, Braindances are a way to avoid fixing the corrupt corporate infrastructure, such as the poison in the water supply or the chemical processed food that riddled with things that shorten people's lifespans. When the citizens can plug in to a digital dream world and experience what it feels like to be a millionaire living in a lavish villa, corporations profit off the belief of people living their dreams as they accomplish nothing in their real lives, as they use Braindances to get temporary relief from the existential dread that is the dystopia of Cyberpunk. To understand how deep this psyop goes, we have to look at the fictional sandbox blueprints that laid the foundation for this technology. Let's start with a similar story with virtual reality dream world like Sword Art Online. The Nerve Gear headset used high-frequency electromagnetic waves to interface with the human brain for full sensory immersion. But if you do the math, you notice the anime show glosses over the cost of 10,000 players getting trapped in the game for 2 years. That also resulted resulted in 3,853 of those players' deaths. The story completely ignores the economic and social fallout of those deaths, or the massive trauma the 6,147 survivors who had to re-enter the real world had to experience. They had lost 2 critical years of their lives, plus the medical expenses to keep them alive while they were in the game. In the Sword Art Online anime, there had to be a medical cost of keeping the players trapped in the game alive after so long. Their real bodies will need nutrition and hydration. That means thousands of people will need feeding tubes, diapers, regular turning to prevent bed sores and infections, as well as musculoskeletal care, because during prolonged immobilization, their bodies undergo profound, rapid, and often irreversible muscle changes, known as disuse atrophy. Muscle fibers shrink because the body stops producing enough protein to maintain them, breaking them down for energy instead. Not to mention, players' vital signs would need to be regularly monitored to ensure they are still breathing and their heart rate stays regular. Sword Art Online characters like Kazuto, Asuna, Klein, and many others may have had families that could cover their medical expenses. However, the cost of just keeping one of the Sword Art Online players alive while they were stuck in the game is upwards to around $200,000 or $1 million plus a year in the hospital, or $80,000 to over $300,000 plus a year in home hospice care. And that's only if you have someone that does not work and can stay home and care for them. I do not think every single player's family could afford the amount of medical care in that perspective. Sword Art Online may have been a way darker story than what we saw on the anime. How does this tie into Braindances? Simple. Who or what cares for the real-world physical bodies of someone in a brain dance? And do the people that lack the ability to afford medical care while in a brain dance dream world are just left die with no one looking after their body's condition? Which brings us to The Matrix. In the movie, Morpheus famously explains that human race was kept in a virtual simulation to be used as batteries. But if you look at the actual math, the caloric energy required to keep a human body alive in a pod vastly outweighs the tiny electrical output that the body generates. The Matrix wasn't a power source. It was a high cost but very effective virtual prison designed to keep the population docile by satisfying their brains with a simulated version of the year 1999. And looking at the state of the world today, you can almost see why the machines chose the specific era of the year 1999 as the base for the Matrix. But why let a few humans escape to Zion just to destroy them later? Because The Matrix is a sci-fi retelling of Plato's allegory of the cave. Plato describes prisoners chained inside a dark cave, facing a blank wall. A fire burns behind them, and puppet masters push objects in front of a flame to projecting shadows onto the stone. The prisoners, having never seen the outside, take these illusions for absolute reality, while the vast majority of the pacified masses are entirely content with their shadows, the delusions, and there's always a small percentage of the population that is hardwired to reject the status quo. They are the outlaws, the outcasts, the renegades, the nonconformists, or whatever title they're given. For the few who manage to drag themselves out of the cave or wake up from the simulation, the truth is initially painful and agonizing, but their souls simply refuse to rot away in the cave with the rest of the brainwashed goyim. Then there's Neo from The Matrix and Johnny Silverhand from Cyberpunk 2077. And both characters have a strong rejection of the status quo. They are anomalies in the system who possess an overwhelming desire to break from delusion. Because whether it's having a digitized version of your consciousness locked inside a corporate server like Johnny Silverhand, or a goyim letting your malnourished body wither away in the crime-infested streets of Night City, addicted to black market brain dances. The cost of getting your life together always require an expensive toll. Brain dances and escapism may seem like an easy way out but it's not. Let's look at Ready Player One, the Oasis VR headset. Wade Watts lives in the stacks. Poorly constructed, low-income mobile homes literally piled on top of each other. These cheap houses regularly collapse, hurting and maiming residents. Yet there is zero political lobbying for safer infrastructure because residents spend 18 hours a day inside the Oasis. The only tiny sliver of upward mobility to escape poverty is grinding for valuable in-game artifacts to sell for profit. The virtual universe acts as a buffer, absorbing the cost of a failing society and turning it into digital consumerism. Although Ready Player One, Oasis, and Sword Art Online, as well as Cyberpunk 2077 BDs, can be an alternative escape to the depressing, depleted world the stories take place in, the virtual world has a stable society with its own game economy. Players can build their own societies in Oasis. There is even some upward mobility and a chance of a better quality of life in Oasis virtual world. By hunting down rare in-game items, clearing high-stakes quests, and competing for the creator's hidden Easter egg, an underdog residents from the slums can amass extreme virtual currency, which can be converted into real-world fortune, offering a legitimate escape route from poverty into a completely better quality of life. On the flip side, in Ready Player One, the villainous corporation Innovative Online Industries, or IOI, operates a highly predatory loyalty and credit program tied to the Oasis. They target vulnerable, low-income players, but offering them massive loans and advanced gaming hardware on credit, intentionally drowning them in high-interest digital debt they can never hope to pay back. Once a player defaults on their payments, IOI exploits the legal system to forcibly throw them into loyalty centers. In these high-tech corporate prisons, debtors are locked into mandatory virtual rings and forced into brutal long-term labor grinding for in-game currency and mining resources 24/7 to clear their balance, effectively turning their real lives over to the corporation. Now, Cyberpunk Arasaka Corporation has something similar with Lucy in Cyberpunk Edge Runners. They did not use Braindance, but they did have her hack the back wall. In Cyberpunk, Braindances replace the education system, and BDs can help provide access to jobs in Night City. For example, David Martinez took classes in a corporate private school in Braindances, and the main reason he had a difficult time in school was because he couldn't afford the Braindance updates. In Night City, Braindances start in the penitentiary, where they were used to systematically break down the will of convicts through an aggressive aversion programming, forcing them into compliance. But these Braindance rehabilitation turned into psychological abuse that had catastrophic side effects. It gradually destroyed the user's mental facilities, triggering severe dissociative disorders and forcing the subject into cyberpsychosis. Once a citizen is driven crazy by the very tech meant to pacify them, mass tech swoops in and removes them from the streets. Cyberpsychosis is a combination of too much cyberware and psychological issues that can be amplified with traumatic brain dances. I have a theory that cyberpsychosis is not just a tragic case of mental illness, but the various cases of cyberpsychosis in Night City are very intentional. For example, the corporals know that not only is there a cure for cyberpsychosis, but several recovered cyberpsychos are working for MassTech. But not only that, Adam Smasher, David Martinez, Songbird, and Zor from the Cyberpunk 2077 book No Coincidence are functional cyberpsychos. In the Cyberpunk Edge Runners show, David pushed into cyberpsychosis with a brain dance. Luckily for David, that failed from Lucy's rescue. But there is a demand for functional cyberpsychos in the cyberpunk corporations, which is why Adam Smasher stayed employed with Arasaka for so many years. Also, Arasaka went to great lengths to capture David Martinez as well. Now, we talked about how virtual reality can be used to brainwash people, but there is still a small population of people that will always reject the program. Also, the medical costs of keeping someone alive while in virtual reality, as well as how VR can be a digital prison that can turn people into cyber psychos. But what about the underground black market BDs? These are raw, unedited recordings bypassing commercial safeguards. Black market BDs would be the dark web version. They are pure, unadulterated sensory data of extreme violence, abuse, and all the sadistic desires twisted people have. Criminal organizations treat human agony as a highly lucrative revenue stream for sick and sadistic consumers. We see the devastating, irreparable costs of this industry's firsthand through the tragic arc of Evelyn Parker. Evelyn was ambitious, trying to pull off the ultimate heist to escape the street life of Night City. But when the plan failed, she was chewed up by Night City's underworld and sold to the black market alley scavenger ring to produce black market BDs. The raw, unfiltered trauma forced her neural pathways, completely shattered her identity. She didn't just suffer physical damage. Her mind was completely overwhelmed, leaving her a hollow shell.
Breaking out of the cave is painful, it's ugly, and it demands an incredibly heavy toll. But staying inside means letting your soul completely rot away alongside a... Don't pick the bad ending of your own story. Step out of the cave. Get your life together. And that's all I have for this video. UnkAnime, signing out.